Top 10 Best Horror Movies Based on Real Events.
I'm crazy after all.
Be very careful. I'll take you along the darkest and scariest way of film with things that you could have lived. Here, reality surpasses the fiction. Number 10. Scream, 1996.
Here's how we play. I ask a question. If you get it right, Steve lives.
In this way begins the massacre of this great franchise by introducing you to Ghostface, a masked killer who kills horror-loving students using only a knife in a fictional city in California. The screenwriter, Kevin Williamson, was inspired by a report that he saw on television about a killer named Danny Rolling, known more as Gainesville Ripper, a maniac who killed 5 college students in Gainesville, Florida over 4 days in August 1990. Worst of all is that the killer left the bodies in disturbing positions and dismembered, horrifying whoever saw them. What most captivated the screenwriter is that the killer had no reason to kill, just like the deranged Ghostface.
I don't really believe in motive, Sid. I mean, did Norman Bates have a motive?
No.
Did they ever really decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people?
Don't think so.
See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
Number 9. The Conjuring, 2013. One of the best horror movies of the 21st century, directed by James Wan. The Conjuring shows the worst fears of people, and the best part is that it's based on real events.
What are we talking about? It's impossible.
Nothing is impossible. The film tells an event that impacted the Perron family in the 70s. They lived paranormal experiences in their new home in Rhode Island.
First day, the owner said, do your family a favor, keep the lights on at night.
Roger Perron, the father, didn't think it was real until things began to disappear and to be disturbed by spirits, and above all, being horrified by the ghost of Bathsheba, former late owner of the house, who wanted to kick them out of her house. That's when some family friends contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators, who upon entering the house felt that dark presence, which made them take the decision to hold a session of spiritualism. Unfortunately, they caused Carolyn, the mother, to be possessed by Bathsheba, causing a disturbing scene that they would never forget. Number 8. The Exorcist, 1973. This is a great cult film, directed by William Friedkin, which became the first horror feature film to be nominated for Best Film at the Academy Awards. This terrifying story came from William Peter Blatty's book and was written in 1971, a story inspired by a real event.
Wait, what?
What you heard. And is that in 1949 in the United States, some priests practiced exorcism to a 13-year-old boy nicknamed Roland Doe, who was possessed by the devil. Roland had a special bond with his Aunt Harriet, who was a spiritualist, and when she died, the little boy wanted to contact her through the Ouija board, and that's when he began to have strange behavior. In short, he had scratches all over his body, he shouted with an underworld voice. What's more, he cursed the priests.
Stick your up her ass, you worthless.
Be silent!
In the end, he was able to free himself from the devil, but no one takes away what the poor child has lived. Number 7. Poltergeist, 1982. I'll continue with a spooky cult horror movie that terrified viewers in the 80s. It's still traumatic to see the clown trying to kill the child and hear the little girl say,
"They're here."
I get chills. Believe it or not, Poltergeist is based on real-life events. This happened to the Hermann family of Long Island, New York. They said their house was haunted and they were chased by a poltergeist. This was evidenced when they saw the bottle caps fly out for no reason. Even a figure of the Virgin Mary rose up into the air and hit a mirror 12 feet away. Despite contacting a priest and ministers of all kinds of religions, the house was still haunted. This event caught the attention of Spielberg, the director of the film, when he read it in Life magazine. A curse that chased them until after the movie was made. Do you remember what the actors lived? Let me know in your comment, please. Number 6. It, 2017. Who hasn't shouted to see Pennywise, and even if he appears like this?
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown.
I can't help but be afraid of it. Pennywise is a disturbing character that came out of Stephen King's eponymous novel, and it's inspired by serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who was accused of killing 33 young men and teenagers in Chicago in the 70s. This is his statement.
I never claimed to be an angel, and I've openly admitted to everything that
This psycho abducted his victim, attacked him sexually, and strangled him to death. Sometimes he did it dressed as his alter ego, Pogo the Clown.
I'm Pogo!
A costume he used to cheer up children in hospitals. Although King's original idea was to write about a troll under a bridge, he played with childhood fears and included a clown as an otherworldly being with exaggerated features and makeup that dehumanizes him. Pogo the Clown, also known by the media as the Killer Clown, was one of the most ruthless killers of all time. Number 5. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. I'll never forget how Leatherface caught that poor girl who ran away desperately. It makes my hair stand on end. Definitely Tobe Hooper, the director of the film, knew how to revolutionize the horror genre, promoting it as if it were a true story taken to the big screen. But you know that reality is more chilling than fiction, and this time is no exception. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is inspired by the maniacal serial killer Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield. He was raised by an extremist Christian mother who isolated him from the outside world and mistreated him physically and psychologically. When his mother died, Ed began to dig up corpses from the cemetery and make mementos of bones and skin like in the movie. With the skin, he also made masks and women's clothing, and since stealing corpses weren't enough for him, he killed some women. Because of that, justice sentenced him to a psychiatric hospital for being mentally incompetent. Number 4. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. It's hard to forget that macabre laugh of those irritating claws. And even though you know it's just a dream, it's impossible not to panic.
Come to Freddy.
This great franchise, made by the horror genius Wes Craven, keeps Freddy Krueger as an iconic character to this day. The best of all is that Wes based it on a newspaper article where they talked about a phenomenon that happened to young adults in Southeast Asia. These were healthy men, without history of mental disorders. However, suddenly, they began to have horrible nightmares that forced them not to sleep so as to not live that terror. At the beginning, they stayed awake, but at the end they always fell asleep. Hours later, they were screaming and violently hitting their beds and died of unknown causes. These events became the main plot of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Great, I won't sleep tonight. Number 3. Halloween, 1978. Seeing this one? And this other one? Frightens me a lot. Halloween has Michael Myers as the masked killer who loves to disturb his victim to death. But the most terrifying thing is that the director and co-writer John Carpenter was inspired by an experience he lived in a psychiatric hospital in Kentucky during his time as a student.
And I visited the most serious mentally ill patients. And there was this kid, I must have been 12 or 13, and he literally had this look.
A look described by Dr. Loomis like
blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
This really had a big impact on John that it was perfect for his horror movie. There's another theory where he's compared with the killer Edmund Kemper, since they both killed a member of their family when they were children. What's more, they were both the same height and enjoyed to stab and strangle their victims. So tell me, what other theory do you know about this masked killer? Number 2. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991.
Dr. Lecter?
A character you will never forget. This great film comes from the homonymous novel of American writer Thomas Harris that gives life to the charismatic Dr. Hannibal Lecter and the ruthless Buffalo Bill, two human beings that you'd think could never exist in real life. You're wrong, because Thomas was inspired by several real killers for the creation of these two individuals, and along with Jonathan Demme, the film's director, the most terrifying and iconic characters of horror films took shape on the big screen. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is based on a real medical surgeon in Mexico called Alfredo Bali Trevino, who was convicted of murder and dismemberment. This killer had a certain elegance that made him an admirable person, but also a person to fear. I could even tell you that he was more frightening than the fictional Hannibal Lecter. In the case of Buffalo Bill, he was a collage of killers, though the main one was Ed Gein, due to his psychotic behavior and his fascination for having objects and clothes made of human skin. A creepy movie in which reality surpasses the fiction. Number 1. Psycho, 1960. It's remembered for its famous bath scene and accompanied by a scary song that makes your hair stand on end. Psycho is a film full of tact, flair, and art. Directed by the great horror film director Alfred Hitchcock, it achieved great box office success. This work of art was inspired by Robert Bloch's homonymous novel, which tells the story of an eccentric motel owner, Norman Bates, who lived with his mother. In this place happens inexplicable situations that will disturb your mind, but what will scare you the most is the real story, since it's inspired by the well-known serial killer Ed Gein, a lunatic who was described by me in previous tops. You know that reality surpasses the fiction when Norman and Ed have the same modus operandi. Both are solitary killers from isolated rural places. Besides, they committed their crimes after the death of their dominant mothers. That's why they have a morbid obsession for them, to the point that these killers love to wear women's clothes. Simply creepy. I'd expect nothing less with these stories. Now tell me, which one of these disturbed you best? If you loved it, like it, share it, and don't forget to click the bell icon for more content. Hey, don't go yet! I have many terrifying videos. What are you waiting for? Click any one of them and get ready to yell from fright.